Thank you, Chairman and Senate Committee, for allowing me to speak in support of Senate Bills 589 and 590, and for making time to hear my story as I journey in recovery from child sexual abuse. These bills are critical to empowering victims of childhood sex abuse, not only to reclaim our lost agency, but also to put a stop to pedophiles and predators in Missouri. Research has shown that such perpetrators will not stop. They must be stopped. My name is Tammy Woods. Presently, I live in Kalamazoo, Michigan, but I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, where we raised our children and where I was a victim of child sexual abuse by my pastor, Mike Bickle, when I was 14. My abuse occurred in an unincorporated county of St. Louis called South County. There is a police report on file there, though no action has been taken because of the statute of limitations. I am not alone in aging out of the pursuit of justice for child sexual abuse. Studies will show that the average age of coming forward with a story of child sexual abuse is 52 years old. I was 57 years old, 43 years after my abuse began, before I could see with clarity and begin to articulate what had happened to me. Unfortunately, for victims who are silenced for decades, when we are finally able to connect the dots and summon the courage to share our story, the legal system fails us by saying our lack of recourse is our fault. We waited too long to face the repressed trauma within. We didn't have the right frames, and we couldn't access the memories fast enough. And so silence and helplessness remain our portion, while our abusers are empowered to continue their abuse. My story of child sexual abuse began in the summer of 1980 when I had just turned 14. My family started attending Mike Bickle's church, where his sophisticated and premeditated grooming of my entire family began immediately. Mike became fast friends with my dad, created closeness with our families, and arranged for me to babysit for him and his wife every Monday night. He gave me special attention, tutoring me in the Bible. He found ways to spend time with me. He put gifts in my freshman locker at school. And once his hook was set, he began to reel me into a reality I could never have imagined. Mike told me over and over that he believed his wife was going to die and that we would be married. Unbeknownst to me, this would be a line he would use for decades as a serial predator. Before I met Mike, I had never been on a date with a boy, kissed a boy, or even held a boy's hand. As my pastor, he took my first kiss. He took my security, my relationships, my hobbies, and my very agency. He devastated me by taking my innocence at 14 years old. And he did all of this while manipulatively framing it as love and alluding to God and marriage. He told me over and over again that if we were ever caught, that I would have to own it. In other words, the burden of initiative would fall on me because he had a family and a ministry. I believed him, and I lived in a heightened state of anxiety because of this pressure. Though he moved to Kansas City when I was a junior in high school, he continued his sexual abuse during his visits and his manipulative control and spiritual abuse all throughout high school and college. An independent third-party investigation conducted by Firefly Investigations, LLC, into Mike Bickle and the ministry he founded, the International House of Prayer in Kansas City, reported in February 2025 that Mike Bickle's sexual behavior with me as a teenager, quote, escalated into sexual assault and deviant sexual intercourse as defined by current Missouri Statute 566.010, Chapter 566, and Chapter 568. The legal definitions of these crimes under Missouri law underscore the severity and criminal nature of his conduct, end quote. To simply sum up, Mike's sexual abuse and emotional control and manipulation of me was extensive. I married my husband after I graduated from college in 1988, and with that, Mike's sexual abuse stopped. But I could not see what Mike had really done, and I was duped into believing he was repentant, and I was his greatest mistake. I vowed to take his secret to the grave, and I did so for 43 years as I watched his influence as a religious leader expand to an international scope. Over the years, Mike treated my family with extra attention and generosity, a seemingly supportive figure, all the while trying to do intermittent reinforcements to keep me silent. And this went on for decades. While my consciousness seemed to have made peace with the trauma I suffered, my body had not. It wasn't until December 2023 that I woke up to the nature of my childhood sexual abuse while reading Deborah's victim statement concerning her abuse by Mike Bickle. It was as if an internal detonator went off inside of me as I suddenly realized his evil abuse and deceptive control. He never stopped his predatory behavior. I wasn't the only one. With professional therapy, trauma therapy, I also came to understand that the decade-long, mysterious physical symptoms of chronic pain and life-controlling claustrophobia that caused panic attacks, which had suddenly manifested later in life, were actually trauma responses to the abuse I suffered as a child. My body kept the score. In summary, 17 women have come forward as victims of Mike Bickle. 2 of us were minors. He has ridden out every statute of limitations, silencing his victims with deceptive and controlling tactics, intermittent reinforcements, bribes, and threats of lawsuits. There are 0 consequences for this dangerous and serial predator. Today, he is free to choose and abuse his next victims. The journey to awareness of sexual abuse is long. Trauma repression and memory loss are real, especially when spiritual abuse is involved. Shame and fear are paralyzing. The manipulative and deceptive frames of predators can take decades to unravel. After all, we were children. There should not and must not be a timer on this process. The statute of limitations does not consider the now well-researched and confirmed obstacles that victims of child sexual abuse must overcome. Mr. Chairman and committee members, let the Show Me State show an example how to turn the tide of justice by honoring the current research of trauma professionals and by standing with children. The child victims of Missouri, including me, ask for your help today in leveling the playing field. Allow us to do what we couldn't do as children. Fight back and pursue justice. Thank you for your time.